Hello, my name is Sean Blackburn, and I'm running for Cleburne County Judge. I'd like to have a conversation with you this morning. Recently we've had speaking events with the Rotary Club. It was a great platform provided by the Rotary Club. I'd like to thank them. I'd also like to thank the Republican Women's Group in Cleburne County for the platform they provided at the recent chili supper. These were great speaking events, and we just really thank them for hosting such. We're kind of running out of speaking events here, so I think the best thing to do is just bring the message to you. I love speaking to the people. I love getting out and talking to the people, so just have a small conversation this morning about what I believe. You probably have seen many of these slide cards scattered around town. They're in businesses, restaurants, all over town, all over the county. So I'm not going to talk about me. This office is really not about me. It's about you and your government. So if you want to read about me, you can pick up a slide card, or you can call my campaign and we'll be glad to provide you with one. On the back of the slide card is a little graphic right here you can take a picture of with your phone. It'll take you right to the judges page on Facebook, and you can read all about my credentials. You can read about my work experience, my education, campaign messages, and so forth. So feel free to do that. So I don't want to talk about me this morning. I'd like to talk more about the governmental process at the county level, which brings us to one of the ordinances that I sponsored. The ordinance was entitled this: Ordinance to approve the funding of emergency medical services for voluntary nonprofit fire departments and/or voluntary EMS agencies throughout Cleburne County. Now, the most interesting thing about this ordinance is not really what it was trying to achieve, but the process in which it was developed. And I believe in the process in which it was developed. So let's talk about that for a minute. When drafting legislation that's supposed to help your folks, supposed to help your people in the county, it's really a good idea to reach out to those people to find out what it is that they need. Talk to people that know more about a subject than you do. So before I drafted that ordinance, now bear in mind, there was no legislation drafted before I met with the constituents. That's important to know, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But we called in some constituents. I called in some constituents from volunteer services. I picked some that have volunteer ambulance service already. I picked some that are seeking to have volunteer ambulance service. We brought those in, and in bringing those folks in, we sat down and said, okay, what do you need? Well, one of the responses was, of course, money. All right. Well, how much money? Well, the figure that was presented to me was $1 million. Well, I looked at most of the folks that were in the room there, and I said, okay, I can't get you $1 million all in one ordinance. There's no way that the quorum court is going to approve $1 million. Not in just one setting, not in one ordinance. So, how about this? How about I get you to $1 million a little bit at a time? So the ordinance that was drafted to give the volunteer services $200,000 per year for a period of 5 years, which would reach the $1 million goal to provide services throughout the county that would sustain our county. Now, why are volunteer services so important? Well, it's pretty simple. Volunteer services are made up of who? They're made up of your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, basically us. Our volunteer services belong to our local communities throughout the county. Those services have been here, and they're always going to be here. And when we need them to take up the slack, they're always there. That's why I want to fund them and make them strong. I wanted to invest your county tax dollars in our services, in our communities. It just made sense. So in doing so, we presented this ordinance to the court. Co-sponsor of this ordinance, when I say we, was Miss Jackie Martin, a fellow JP. She helped me write the ordinance. We presented the ordinance to the quorum court. The ordinance did not pass. We needed 6 votes to pass it, and it did not pass. That was a little upsetting. I mean, I really wanted to pass the ordinance, but it's okay. I mean, you're not going to pass every piece of legislation that you draft and put before a governmental body. It's just not going to happen. You'd be lucky to pass over 50% of it. But this ordinance didn't pass, and that's okay. That didn't really upset me. What upset me greatly was the letter that I received from a prosecuting attorney's office in Batesville. And this letter was not to inform me that I had broken the law or that anyone in the room had broken the law. What it was to inform me is that I needed to review FOIA law, Freedom of Information Act. I understand FOIA law. I've even used FOIAs to obtain information for myself from governmental bodies in this city and in this county. I believe in FOIA law. That's why I understand it. And I also understand this. There was no legislation drafted whenever I called the constituents in from the volunteer services so they could tell me what they needed. That's how you represent the people, folks. You go to your people out there and you ask them, what can I do for you? What legislation can I draft that will help you? That's how this ordinance was developed. And the result was, 1, it didn't pass. 2, received a letter from the prosecuting attorney telling me to review FOIA law and cautioning me to do this again. Folks, I don't know what you call that, but in my world, that's called intimidation. I do not believe in intimidation. I believe in representation without intimidation. As your county judge, I will always promote the JPs to go out and meet with their constituents, find out what they need, and then draft legislation accordingly. That's how you represent your people. I will never intimidate anyone not to do that. I would encourage it. Of the 11 JPs that sit on our quorum court, I hope that every one of them would govern in such a manner. Now, in a wrap up, this is just a conversation. I just wanted to speak with you this rainy Tuesday morning, deliver a message. None of this has been drafted. I don't have teleprompters. I don't have a speech in front of me that I'm reading from. I'm just talking to you about your governmental process and what goes on and what I would like to change. So early voting starts May 9th. Election day is May 24th. I urge you to get out and participate in your local county government and get out and vote for the candidate that aligns best with your views. If you like a candidate that will run your local county government based on representation and listening to the people, cast a vote on May 24th for Sean Blackburn. Thank you for your time, and it's been a pleasure to speak with you this morning.